Hi, it's Conor Svensson here, founder and CEO of Web3 Labs. We're a blockchain technology company. I'm going to be talking in this video about how blockchain is great for digital fingerprints. When we talk about digital fingerprints, what we actually mean is where you have a system that records some input data and then creates a fingerprint or unique identifier of that information so that subsequently down the line you can prove when you have the original source record or item that it is what you actually claim it to be. So when we think about this from a systems perspective, typically it's some data comes in and then this goes into a data capture application and then that gets written to a data store. The challenge here is always trust though. How can you ensure that the information that's being stored, this digital fingerprint that's being written to the data store, hasn't been tampered with between being recorded and then subsequently being retrieved to verify it down the line? And this is where blockchain is very, very helpful. So what we can do with a blockchain is we can take this digital fingerprint and actually write it to the ledger of the blockchain. And because the blockchain is immutable, i.e. it cannot be tampered with, we have a way of being able to ensure that when we write a fingerprint, when an event or we first want to actually create a fingerprint of something, as long as we store it to the blockchain at that point in time, we can subsequently retrieve it down the line as a way to prove that the event or thing that we created the fingerprint of is what we claim it to actually be. If we were to actually characterize it, really what we're trying to get at here is that we want to be able to prove that an event or activity took place and be able to use this for subsequent dispute resolution. And of course, it's got to be tamper-proof, the store, which a blockchain is. So there's lots of great use cases where we can actually apply this. So if we think about the consumer space for digital rights management, so say you have some music or video content or even a document that was created in a digital format, if you create one of these digital fingerprints of it, store it to a blockchain, then someone down the line pulls out the same digital document and wants to be able to prove that the information displayed on there is accurate with what was originally recorded, we can compare that against the digital fingerprint that resides on the blockchain to prove it. We also see it with the luxury goods markets as well. One great example here is with LVMH, who obviously make a lot of very valuable luxury handbags and other consumer-focused goods. So they actually have a blockchain which they've used to be able to provide authenticity guarantees of the actual parts that we use to create the luxury item, but also that the luxury item that you're holding in your hand is not a counterfeit one, which is a huge problem in that industry. We also see it being used with identities as well. So in the utility sector, we have these grid energy assets. So it could be like a solar panel or some sort of other device that's actually generating electricity on a power grid. And these can have like an IoT sensor associated with them, which has a unique ID, and that ID lives on a blockchain. So you have a way to guarantee that the device that actually produced something is the device that it claims to be. And we've seen Energy Web and Vodafone use this to great effect. We also see it in the commodities space as well, with companies being able to provide full traceability of actual commodities so that you can see where they were farmed, who they were farmed by, and so on. And by actually providing these digital fingerprints of these raw commodities, you have a way to actually differentiate them from other commodities on the market, which historically has not been possible. If you're referring to like bushels of wheat, for instance, they're all kind of considered fungible, interchangeable with one another. But if you have some sort of digital identity associated with them or information about where they were sourced from, which lives on a blockchain, you have the ability to actually differentiate them from one another. So, you could be interested in, say, from the farming perspective, how they were actually created or these sorts of things. So it starts to open up a more interesting competitive landscape as well for companies to differentiate their offers in the commodities as well as other spaces. This is something that a company called Xpansiv have also done to great effect as well with their commodity fingerprints, as they call them. We've seen it too as well with financing agreements. So where you actually have a physical document that takes place with a piece of financing. So an example could be for a large piece of equipment finance, for instance. If a company wants to finance some heavy machinery for some work that it's doing, then we can actually take out finance for that, but actually have an agreement that lives on the blockchain so that you can see that this particular piece of equipment has only been financed once for the activities that it's intended for, because this is an area where there's always the potential for counterfeiting to take place. So too with carbon registries. So with these registries that organizations as well as countries hold, they have details about the actual volumes of carbon they're actually producing, and you can represent these on the blockchain as well, so that you have a way of providing guarantees that the information that was submitted and is reported as being current actually matches up with what was originally recorded there. These are just a few of the myriad of different possibilities that exist for using blockchain for digital fingerprints. But the characteristics here that we're interested in are basically where we want to have proof that an activity or event took place. We also want to have evidence potentially for dispute resolution down the line, and we want it to be tamper-proof as well. This is where blockchain excels with storing digital fingerprints. If you'd like to learn more about this, please do sign up for one of our upcoming Principles of Successful Blockchain Deployment webinars. I'd also love to hear what you think in the comments below. Thank you.